Hi, everyone. This is a Product Fit, Airtime's podcast series with exceptional product builders telling their behind the scenes stories. I'm Akash, the CEO of Airtime, a user engagement platform empowering product teams to validate user needs fast and thereby increase product adoption. Today, my guest is Matias Sigal, co founder and CEO of Replace. Matias, it's a pleasure to have you here. And let's start by telling about yourself a little bit.
Thanks, Sakosh. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Matias Sigal. I'm from Argentina, but I moved to Tel Aviv, Israel, 4 years ago. I always wanted to start a startup, but later on my career, I understood I wanted to start a startup in climate tech, meaning something that makes an impact on the environment. And that's why I came to Tel Aviv to learn more about startups and renewable energy. And 4 years later, I'm moving closer to this goal.
Excellent. And I guess you're not doing it on your own, and you have a co-founder. Can you tell me and share the story of how you met your co-founder and how you know each other?
Of course, in fact, it's a really cool story and it's related to the story I just shared because we came to Israel with a program to learn about startups 4 years ago to the same program. We became really good friends. He's really technical guy. He's into software and all that kind of stuff. And I was at that moment helping him on the business model side because he was already an entrepreneur. 4 years from that moment passed, and I wanted to go to ski to Andorra. I was going to go with two friends here from Israel, but 1 week before, they canceled. In parallel, I was dating potential co-founders, literally, like a regular date, but for co-founders. And when my two friends canceled, I started to look for someone else to go with to Andorra. And my friend Alan lives in Barcelona, really close. So I called him. I told him, Alan, let's go to Andorra. Let's go to ski. It will be fun. He told me, no, I can't. I'm really busy. So I hung up and I called his girlfriend. And I told her, Abby, let's go to ski to Andorra. It will be fun. It will be really cool. She said, yeah, let's go. And she convinced Alan. The three of us went. He was starting another startup at that moment. He had the MVP. He invested a lot of effort and time on it. So I was not trying to convince him as a co-founder. We only went as friends. But during the trip, I was telling him about my vision on how we will make an impact on the environment through technology by making energy cost efficient. And when I came back to Tel Aviv, he called me. He told me, Matias, I want to work in something with purpose. I will drop my startup and join you. And since then, we are co-founders.
Fantastic story. And what are the odds? You were persistent. Like, yeah, you really like you. The door was closed. Fine, I'm going through the window. You mentioned Ellen is located in Barcelona. You're in Israel, so you guys are working remotely. And this is not an uncommon setup these days, especially since Corona. And I was just wondering what kind of like difficulties this remote setup brought to working together, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, so to be honest, we don't find day-to-day difficulties because we have really well defined the roles. He's the CTO, and I trust him 100% on all the technical aspects. He trusts me 100% on all the rest. So it's really defined. And in fact, we also have a software engineer in Argentina. So we are in 3 continents. And he's working with Alan mainly. And this is the situation. However, we meet more or less every 2 months, me and Alan. And every time we meet, we do have breakthroughs, but not on purpose. Like, it's not that we set up that KPI for the meeting, but things happen. So it's really good to meet in person and to work in person. However, we are having a really good, let's say, work organization for remote work until now.
Yes. And if I understand, your magic recipe is like identifying areas that each of you are responsible for, and then fully trusting the other person that they will get their part right.
Yeah, 100%. Before being like in this like crazy roller coaster. So when thought we were in the roller coaster, but we were not. Now I see. Meaning when we were ideating and validating, we were having meetings like twice a week, fixed meetings. But now not anymore because we cannot afford to have that time invested there. But we do have regular meetings and we talk all the time, for sure, a few times a day with WhatsApp or calls and stuff. And there are different perspectives. I met investors that didn't like that aspect, and they said, you need to eat pizza with your co-founder at 3 a.m. in the morning in the office. I met really successful entrepreneurs that told me that they did this, let's say, work method, and their company is extremely successful. So I think it depends on the company culture itself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very interesting. And we've been circling about your idea and company for a while, but we haven't talked about what it actually does. So please tell us about it.
Yeah. So Replace helps renewable energy project developers to identify the best location to deploy their projects. A solar farm, a wind project, a hydrogen project. Right now, we are fully focused on greenfield solar and agrivoltaic. And the big problem we are tackling is that today, the energy developers find the sites manually. They have a team that checks different parameters of data, such as the grid, the sun, and the permitting, and they decide where to develop. Because they do it this way, 80% of the renewable energy projects fail during development, wasting billions of dollars per year and slowing the energy transition. So our technology is a data analysis algorithm that analyzes all the potential parcels of land with all the relevant parameters and identifies which is the best location for that project to succeed and to maximize the return of investment.
Ex- Amazing. And I have this internal measure of what a good idea, what I think a good idea is. And when I hear a really good idea, I always think it's, oh wow, it makes just so much sense. How come it's like nobody thought of that? Once you hear it, just say I see an instant click. And what I'd like to understand though is that coming up with good ideas, it's typically a process to get there. And how did you come up with your idea? How did that happen?
So,
Don't tell me it's another skiing trip, because I don't I don't believe that.
it's not a ski trip, but I have a cool story about it as well. So I believe the ideas won't come from the trees, like with Isaac Newton. So he got hit by an apple, but he knew a lot about physics to understand that was gravity. Other people also got hit by an apple. That's one way to study a lot and have a lot of technical knowledge to be able to develop. But as I was telling you at the beginning, I was always an entrepreneur and I wanted to build a company that makes an impact on the environment. So around 3 years ago, I said, okay, this won't come from the tree. I need to find it. So I did something I call the Startup Monday, which means Tel Aviv, you are in Tel Aviv as well, it's a really intense city. It's very difficult to have free time after office. So I said, okay, every Monday I won't do any plans. I will tell my friends I won't meet them. I will sit at home and I will study markets, ideas, technologies, do a list, and then the companies or the projects I like from the list, I will move forward and validate them, talking to clients and different types of things. I did this list for 2 years. I had 52 companies. And guess what? Any of those were replaced. I ended up killing all of those ideas because either competition, viability, monetization, or I didn't like that enough to invest all my energy. But fortunately, I had a problem at work. I was working developing renewable energy projects, and I went to develop to Australia. After 18 months working in Australia, I got a notice from the government that I couldn't build in that place because of a policy, let's say, because it was a protected area. So I said, okay, this can be a problem. 2 weeks later, I got the same message from the Netherlands that in Rotterdam we couldn't build because it's a protected area. I said, how come I lost 9 months in the Netherlands, 18 months in Australia? This should be a big problem. So I started to call solar developers. I talked with 65 solar companies, medium, big, and small from every continent in the world. I validated that was a problem, and then I had enough confidence to go full time.
Let me stop you there for a second. 65. You talked to 65 companies, and I guess it's not just that you pick up the phone and call these companies. You know, these are like developers, serious people, busy people. How did you get through to them? How did you get through to the right people in these companies?
Yeah, no, this is a great question, Akash, because a lot of friends that want to start a startup, I tell them, okay, you need to talk to clients, and they want to do something, for example, for restaurants, and you can access them. Like you can go in the street and access the restaurant, so it's less complicated to get your target audience to talk with you and do this famously called MAM test. But for energy developers, it's not. I don't know how many do you know. Like most of the people know zero or maximum one. Fortunately, I was working for 4 years in this field, so I had a base. I had a really good relationship with like 10 of them. And this is exponential because you just ask them, okay, connect me to, after the meeting, connect me to one from another company. I'm just validating, that won't hurt you. And they're happy to do it. And when you finish your list, call outreach in LinkedIn. And that's and then the last, so actually like 40 were like that. And the last 25, maybe now are even more, I'm not counting anymore. But the last 25 were already like people I was talking as clients. So I already have an MVP and I'm talking as clients, but I start the meeting validating. So I start the meeting asking them how do they develop today. I want to tell you 100% of all of the ones I met had the problem of failing during development due to manual site selection. So it's good to still validating. It gives you confidence, and then you talk with more confidence with investors, clients, potential employees, in this podcast and everywhere.
Excellent. That's a super insightful. Also, that like I think it's not necessarily an intuitive idea to ask the person that you like with difficulty arrange the call with to recommend others, and they would be willing to do that. But if you're solving an important problem for them, I guess they have a motivation to help you and pass you on to others.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good to start with people you have a relationship, so they will be happy to do it. Then it gets more tricky, but if you get
Yeah.
it, awesome. If not, also very good.
Awesome, Matias. Let's move to another topic. Let's talk about fundraising a little bit. A hot topic these days. Apparently more difficult in the later stages. Still okay in the pre-seed seed stages. At what stage you're in, and how's your fundraising status now?
Yeah, so we can say that we are in a pre-seed stage. We just finalized our pre-seed round more or less 10 days ago. We raised $500,000 from like 9 different investors. So it was a really interesting learning process. Thank you.
Tell me about that. Like, how did you find like the first person in the investment round, and how did you then manage to close the rest?
Yes, so the first one, in fact, is actually the managing director of one of the biggest VCs in Israel. So that gave me a lot of leverage, and was someone I had relationship for some months already, or maybe 1 year. And I was telling him the same story I was telling you, that I wanted to build a startup, and then I got to the stage I needed to fundraise, and I was one of the first one. He was one of the first ones I called, and from that, like, you are creating every time you are building the house, so every time it gets like closer and easier to get more. So this was not that difficult, but I built that relationship. But after this, still was difficult because we didn't have a demo, we didn't have clients. So in parallel, we started to build the demo of the technology, trying to get clients and trying to connect with VCs and investors. We ended up building the demo. I went to Madrid to see clients because our initial target in that moment, now it changed, but was Spain. And we got 3 letters of intent. I came back to Tel Aviv, and then I started to meet again investors. We got 2 term sheets in the same time. One investor from Switzerland that is Forward VC and also Techstars. And we got both of them. So then we had leverage, and then we had what we needed for some interesting milestones. But we're still talking to angels. After that, like every time you get more and more traction. So, but we were at that point again more focused on the clients. we ended up getting a paid customer, and that kind of changed the game. And the angels we were talking, I stopped asking. I never asked them to invest to the angels. I was just in relationship with them and telling them my ideas and like literally wanting their feedback. If they wanted to invest, amazing, but I was wanting their feedback, honestly. And so another investor I was meeting for a long time, and it's a good friend of mine, asked me, hey, how are you doing? I told him the update that we had raised around, in that moment, 300,000. We had a paid client and the 3 letters of intent, and then he offered me to invest. And that week was insane. In 4 days, I got each day 50K angel in 4 days, and we raised 500K. And we ended up saying no to a lot, because a lot of the people I was also in touch then wanted to enter, but we don't really need it. We have enough for our next milestone, considering overhead. So now we are opening relations for the next round. Sorry, but now we are fully focused on delivering and reaching the milestones. In fact, we are on the way to get there with other paid customers in the pipeline, hopefully close to close. We hired a software engineer, and we are about to hire a rockstar product owner for the team.
Awesome. Congratulations, and very inspiring story. And I think like focusing on your product and hitting milestones, I guess that's the most convincing for investors. And at the same time, I think from what I hear, what you did very well is to pass this information, to pass on this progress to them, so they could follow you like in every step that you were making, and going ahead, and they could like get themselves pumped up and interested in your
maybe
story.
there to add, like maybe for people fundraising and stuff, like, so I need to improve in the investors updates, and I'm not saying sending yet newsletters and those stuff, but I'm going for dinner and for coffee with these people because I really consider them mentors and friends, and so that's how I gave them the updates, like not with the purpose of giving them updates like seriously, but that's how it happened to me. So I'm really fortunate to all these investors I have. I consider them people I trust, and I'm really counting on them and asking them, each of them, if with other fields. So it's really useful.
Excellent. Matias, I have a last question for you. You're a young founder, right? You're 26. And I was wondering, how is that an impact? Do you see any impact on your like discussions, either with investors or with clients, where you're good at what you're doing, but age is a lot of time, I think, it's prejudice in positive or negative way, the way we are perceived. And I'm very curious if you have any experience or story to share about that.
I do have a story, but let me start with something else, and now we will share a story. Which, in fact, I wanted to write an article about that, and I never did. So it's a good opportunity. So the something else I wanted to say is that it's a benefit. I don't have any other responsibility in my life than the startup. You see me in the office. I really believe I work every single energy time I have, 15 hours per day, more or less. And that's a big advantage. And that's why also I wanted to start now. Like, my only priority right now is for Replace to make an impact in the world and go huge and really help combat climate change while it creates significant profits. And I won't stop until that happens. So it's a huge advantage, my current stage. However, it's true. Maybe you enter a room and they look at you and they tell you, okay, who is the CEO, you know? And however, I was fortunately to start with this experience a long time ago. So in my previous job, I was 21 years old, and I ended up going to an accelerator in the Netherlands on behalf of the company. And there I had to meet, for example, the CEO of the most important port in Europe and the CEO of multinational companies. And I needed to make them respect me. And I learned there that confidence is the most important quality to make that happen. So to anyone young listening to us, if you show confidence, nothing else matters. Of course, needs to make sense what you are saying, and that's how you make the confidence. I read a lot, I learn a lot. I'm extremely passionate about renewable energy. I love to talk about it and learn from people that knows more than me. So that's the secret. Like the age is just a number. The experience, of course, is important, but I have enough experience in this field. Like I was working in climate tech for 4 years, in renewable energy for 4 years, and in entrepreneurship since I'm 12 years old. So that's, I think, the the secret or the recipe.
Thanks so much for sharing. I think it's very very insightful, and this confidence I can really see that, like, combined with your experience, that it you're very well accepted irrespective of, like, how old the other person is or how young, where we want to look at it from. Um, Excellent, Matias. Thanks so much for sharing your stories. It was a pleasure to have you here, and I'm, like, crossing my fingers for you and Replace, and hope to hear about you in the coming months.
Amazing, Akos. Was really fun to be here, and same for you and Airtime. It's really good for to learn from you as well, and I'm looking forward to hearing the podcast when it's ready. Bye
Yeah, fantastic, Matias. Take care.
bye.